In this video, we're talking about Disney and Universal. What separates them from the competition? How are they changing the industry? How have they changed the industry? We're going to compare, contrast. I got Slimer, Mr. Seymour Duck, and our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Mr. Webba, up next on OG 50. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. The Italiano will be back in a few days. Right now, though, I have a fantastic panel. Like I said, Webba, Slimer, and Mr. Seymour Duck with me today. Webba, I will start with you, sir. Where can the good folks at home find you on social media?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on again. It's a great pleasure, and this is gonna be a fun topic. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter, Mr. Webba at webslinger760. I'm mostly on Instagram now, not so much Twitter, but I will check it occasionally. But that's where you can find me at.
There he is. And down below, we got Slimer. Welcome back, brother. How you doing?
Hey, thanks very much. I feel like I haven't been on in forever.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. It's been at least
Quite a while.
48 hours at least. if you can let everybody know where they can find you on social media, Slimer.
Absolutely, guys. You guys can find me on X at SlimeSquare84.
There he is. And last but certainly not least, we have the one and only Mr. Seymour Duck with a pretty awesome looking avatar pic today. I like that, Seymour.
Thank you. That's actually me in real life.
There it is. There you go. We got our first official Seymour face reveal. This is awesome. I love it. Mr. Duck, if you can let everybody home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, you can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck.
There he is. Make sure you follow him on X at Mr. Seymour Duck. Mr. Webba. So Mr. Webba approached me on this topic a few days ago. I thought it was really, really fascinating. All about what is, the compare and contrast, right? The Disney and Universal are kind of seen as this, well, not kind of, they are seen as the premium experience, right? Universal has really stepped up their game over the past, I would say 15, 20 years. And Disney has always been the leader in this space. But they are really the kings, right, in this whole industry, I think, in the themed space. But how are they different though? How are they different? We're going to break it down with both the product themselves and the numbers with Mr. Seymour Duck. But Mr. Webba, if you want to kind of elaborate on the topic, and then we'll kind of go from there, sir.
Yes, absolutely. So if I can put this into the right words, right? So the idea came up because I visited, like, I've been to all the theme parks here, at least the major ones on the West Coast here. Slimer, I know if you visited a lot of them on the East Coast and down that way. And what I noticed was every time when I went to another theme park slash amusement park, I always noticed, I was like, why can't they do this? Disney does this or Universal does that. Like, why do they operate like this? Then just over the years, I realized, I was like, wait a minute. If you took Universal and Disney out of the equation, right? And you had SeaWorld, Six Flags, Knott's, Busch, like any park related to SeaWorld, like Busch Gardens or whatnot, the Legolands, it's like, okay, well, actually, they all operate on a more theme park, amusement park normal level. The Universal and Disney are really the exception to the rule when it comes to this. But a lot of the fans, we take Universal and Disney as like a high premium, and we put them like on a pedestal, pretty much. Like, this is a premium experience. This is what we should be getting, right? This is the type of experience I want to be like enveloped in a thematic atmosphere of storytelling and a world that you leave behind the real world and go into this new fantasy, right? And so I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, actually, these two parks are not the norm. So, but like Disney IP and the brand, it's so ingrained into the culture, and for multi generations, that you have adult Disney fans. You have people who really use Disneyland or Disney World as like mental help. like for them, right?
Right,
Because
right.
they love it so much. And I don't think ever really, in my opinion, any other brand for other theme parks will get to that level. Honestly, that's my opinion.
No, they won't, because Disney is Disney's a whole other animal. And we talked a lot. Well, we talked already about how Disney and Universal are both premium experiences, and I stand by that. Universal does a great product. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. But Disney is still another beast. It's very much this kind of rite of passage growing up. You know, in America, it's very rooted in our American pulp culture, unlike anything else, really. You know what I'm saying? And there's also that sentimental element to Disney that does separate it from other companies. I mean, the Walt element of it all. You know, this man who came to California with a suitcase and a dream, right? With a suitcase and a dream. I mean, that really speaks to a lot of people, you know. And there's people, you know, we've talked about it. I've talked about it on the channel, and our Disney Glimpses on Twitter actually has mentioned it as well, where there are people who are Disney parks fans, but aren't necessarily amusement park or theme park fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
They go to Disney, but if Disney were to be gone tomorrow, let's just say Disney went bankrupt and they closed all their parks, these people wouldn't necessarily be going to Knott's then. Mm-hmm. Disney is seen as a very different kind of product. You know, it's kind of, in my opinion, I know he's called the king of pop, but Michael Jackson was really his own genre, in my opinion. He wasn't even pop music. Michael Jackson was Michael Jackson. He wasn't pop. He was his own thing. In a lot of ways, Disney is its own thing. In a lot of ways, Disney is its own genre, you know. But I will say the closest you get to Disney, though, is Universal. But what say you, Slimer, on this topic in terms of that separation between the premium companies and the rest of the industry and what have you?
Yeah, I mean, Disney World and Universal Studios are definitely in a league all of their own. And from my experience, I'd probably throw Dollywood in there as well, surprisingly. But once you've been to Dollywood, anybody who's been knows exactly what I'm talking about. They actually have their own resorts. They have cabins. They have the Harvest Festival, which I believe has already started. If not, it's starting very soon. And that's a legendary event throughout the United States for anybody that does theme parks. It is on Disney and Universal's level easily. But that's about it.
Now, Slimer, would you say there's a couple reasons why you like Dollywood so much? I'm just kidding. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry. I just had another joke in there.
At least two. At least. And we're not talking about the Blue Ridge Mountains.
There we go.
But no. Outside of Dollywood, Universal Studios, and Disney, every other park here in the United States and probably across the world are considered amusement parks. You have some that try to be theme parks, but you can't really say that they get on the level of Universal, Disney, or Dollywood, or there's one in the UK. It's just slipping my mind right now, but I'll remember it here later in the conversation. But what separates them is the fact that they have theming, and then the quality of the customer service, and then the level of immersion once you get into there. Everything from the bubble to the resorts to the customer service, it all connects together to create a cohesive experience that you don't get at an amusement park. And so most of the parks are amusement parks. So that's why they're so special, is because the majority of them do not have that cohesive element of resort, customer service, experience, immersion. And so for these 3 or 4 companies to be the outliers, but still have the highest attendance out of all the parks, almost probably combined, is the reason these parks continue to stay at the #1 spot, and which is why they'll never be dethroned. But that's not to say that the other parks don't have something to offer. And, we'll definitely get into that, because there's certain reasons I go to Busch Gardens versus going to Disney World. Like, there's some days where I just don't want to go to Disney. I want to go to Busch Gardens. I just want to ride roller coaster after roller coaster after roller coaster. So, there's something out there for everybody. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to exploring this with you guys. And I will let Seymour have it from here.
Yeah, Seymour, you're not as much of a theme park guy as us. I'm kind of curious what your experience has been. Have you been to Disney before? Have you not been there? What parks have you been to? What's been your overall experience?
It's strange. When I was a kid, I would go to Cedar Point or Wonderland, which is now all owned by Six Flags. But every year, that's like the go-to place to go to. But now, when I'm growing up as an adult with friends who are like really into Disney, they rather not go to those parks anymore, and they rather just save their money and go to Disney World, go to Universal Studios. They want that quality park experience now, and they rather spend money that's worth it instead of mediocre parks or the middle of the trail parks compared to Disney World, because Disney and Universal is like the high standard of quality, the gold standard. When you go to Disney, you know you're getting that quality attractions, the quality experience. And even for me, right? I haven't gone to Disney World a lot. Or Disneyland. I went to Disneyland because of a jazz band trip. Then I went to Universal when I was 12. Haven't been there in a long time, but it's an experience for me. So when I go there, I spend a lot of money. I even told my mom, give me that special access, because I saw everyone trying to skip the lines for Universal. And I'm just like, I want to get that. Come on, we're not going to come here again. Let me skip the lines. And then we went to some slime live show with SpongeBob. It was very weird. They put slime on me. But yeah, apparently I'm on TV somewhere in the archives for Nickelodeon, back when they had Nickelodeon there. But yeah, it's an experience. And, people nowadays don't want to spend as much money. And I see the fans, like the actual big fans, saving their money up for the experience. And if they don't want to go there, they rather just stay at home. They have their Disney Plus, they have their video games. They don't need to go to the middle of the road of the amusements. That's what I see from the friends and family that I'm with.
Well, and that makes sense, Seymour. We live in a world right now where people are very much consumed with with content and stuff, right? Like you have the whole generation that grew up on things like Harry Potter. My generation was more Star Wars. Yeah, Slimer, I think you can concur. We're kind of both around the same age. And so you want to experience the franchises you grew up with as a kid, kind of like in these physical environments. Go ahead, Seymour. I do apologize.
I just wanted to make a point. And you said like how people go to Disney because they like Disney. And if it wasn't there, they wouldn't go through these regular parks. Mm-hmm. And that's actually me for Universal, for Nintendo. If Super Nintendo wasn't there, Universal, right now with Universal, like the past Universal was fun. All those past attractions for me. But the current one, if Super Nintendo wasn't there, not really. It's not for me. Minions, DreamWorks, not for me.
Oh yeah, no, I feel you on that, man. I'm very much like, I'm not an amusement park guy. I'm a theme park guy. Like for me, it's all about Disney, because for me with Disney, it's not necessarily even just the parks. What really got me into Disney in the first place wasn't even the parks. It was the animation. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an animator. I drew all the time, and I grew up, I was like coming of age right when that Renaissance era hit. I was like 11 or 12 years old. So the animation is what really got me into this thing. And then, everything kind of trickles down, and then you become into the parks and things like that. But so for me, Disney is the whole package. It's the animation, the movies, Walt's legacy, his story, and that's all part of the theme parks. So that you can't, for me personally, you can't duplicate that anywhere else. Like Universal has its own set of its founders, its history, and stuff like that as well. It just doesn't resonate with me personally like that. So I see it differently. In terms of like these amusement parks, though, I'm not a big coaster guy. I'm not a thrill junkie. I have no desire to like go to these places and get thrown around. If Disney didn't exist anymore, I would go to Universal, absolutely, probably like once or twice a year. But I'd probably do other stuff. Other vacations, go to Las Vegas, go to these like resort things across around the world, maybe go to Tokyo or whatever. Like that's more my thing, as opposed to like amusement parks, because a lot of people in our community will say, if Disney's getting too expensive, why don't you go to Knott's, or why don't you go to like, I don't know, like Busch Gardens or something. It's like, okay, I mean, those places are okay for me, but I mean, for me personally, it's just, it's not, I'm not really that into that, I like Disney for a very distinct reason. And these amusement parks with all the steel giants and things, these roller coasters, they don't really satisfy that itch for me. Like I get more of that itch kind of satisfied when I go to like a place like Las Vegas than I do if I were to go to a place like Six Flags or Knott's, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of interesting. What's that?
Right. Oh, Oh, sorry. I was just say, OG. I think is that because do you think that's because at Las Vegas you have all those kind of immersive like resorts right there, right? So
Yeah.
so you're getting kind of that like a similar experience in that regard. Granted, it's more kind of adult, it's more adult oriented, but you're getting that more like atmospheric kind of immersiveness there. Whereas, for example, Knott's, we actually talked about this before, OG, where like, okay, yeah, technically Knott's is a alternative, but is it really a true alternative to Disney? In my opinion, it's not. Universal would be that,
Yeah,
you know?
Universal's a true alternative, or at least the truest and closest alternative you can
Yes.
possibly get, you know?
Mhm.
Like you said, like Knott's, it's a great look, it's kind of like this, right? You want to compare food, right? If you want to do the premium experience, right? Not to be confused with the OG55 experience, Webba.
Yeah, yes.
The premium experience, right? Um, you 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 know you would compare say Disney to like I don't know if it's the premium experience, like a Morton Steakhouse, right? Like just really nice steak dinner, like oh chef's kiss, right? And then you would have a place like Knott's, right? And it's definitely not Morton's, it's probably more like a I don't know, like a Ruby's or something, right? And that's fine. Like because sometimes you do feel like Ruby's and you don't want to go to Morton's, you know what I'm saying? But they're two totally different animals. So it's not like if you have like say you're celebrating an event, right? Like or you're going on a date and you were going to go to Morton's, but Morton's was full. It's not like the alternative to Morton's is let's go to TGI Fridays. Like there's two totally different experiences, right? And that's kind of how I see Disney and like Knott's. And I don't want to sound like I'm picking on Knott's. I'm just using it as an example. It's not the same experience. It's not apples for apples or oranges for oranges. You know what I'm saying? It's completely different now, and that's okay. Sometimes you just feel like going to TGI Fridays. Sometimes you just want. Sometimes I want to go to Mickey D's. Sometimes I just feel like a quarter pounder. I don't want to go to Morton's, and that's fine. But they're not the same experience. So when people say these are alternatives to Disney, like Knott's and Six Flags, they're really not. No pun intended. They're not. You know what I'm saying? They're really not. What say you, Slimer?
No, I agree with you. One of the reasons that I like to go to the other theme parks, other than the fact that I grew up with them and I have a little bit of that childhood connection, particularly Busch Gardens, Tampa, because I used to go there after school. But one of the reasons I like to go there is because you're kind of how can you put it? You feel a little bit more isolated because they're usually not as crowded. Usually go there just for one thing, which is to ride the roller coasters. And like outside of that, food options are pretty simple. So I guess you could like say it a roundabout kind of way. I like to go there simply because of the simplicity. And then if I wanted to go, to the Miami Reserve, which is the gorilla attraction over there, fantastic animal exhibit. They also have the elephants, which is another fantastic animal exhibit. But Busch Gardens also has a lot of, believe it or not, old Magic Kingdom and Disneyland built into it too, because it was established in 1959. A lot of people don't know that. That is the second oldest amusement park here in Florida. First one was Cypress Gardens, which opened in 1955, and then Busch Gardens in 1959. So they still have things like the sky buckets, which you don't get at which you don't get at Magic Kingdom or Disneyland anymore. I mean, you get them in the Skyline in a version of the Skyliner, but not in the actual park. So Busch Gardens is an older park, and I like that because it does have a lot of the charm that you found in Magic Kingdom 20 years ago. So that's why I enjoy going to Busch Gardens. It's a staple. In fact, I'm just looking at their website here, and I'm gonna do it on present. Let's
Perfect.
see. Check this out. Let's go to present. Share screen. Share screen. And here it is. Boom. So Busch Gardens Tampa actually offers, and I didn't know this, free shuttle service from Orlando to Busch Gardens through their Mears Destination Services.
Wow.
And this is
that sounds a lot like the Magical Express, my friend.
Right, yeah. Like who's premium here now, you know?
Right.
Transportation is free with any Busch Gardens admission ticket, fun card, or annual pass. Reservations are highly recommended. I mean, come on, Disney World. What are you doing? What are you doing, Disney? I mean, if Busch Gardens is offering it from Orlando all the way to Tampa, which if you don't know, is about it's about an hour on I-4.
Okay.
So this is a massive perk. Now, this is where you can get into like the difference between Disney and Busch Gardens, right? Like, so when you go to Busch Gardens, they don't have a Busch Gardens hotel resort. They have a lot of local inns that have been there forever. So when you get dropped off at the park, and you got to sort your luggage situation out after, like before or after that, right? So like that's the Disney difference right there. So while they do offer the shuttle service, you're gonna have to figure some things out on your own. But I mean, like this is incredible. But yeah. Anyways, the reason I like talking about Busch Gardens so much is I'm very fond of that park, and I still got Hollow Scream over there. That's one of my favorite horror events, Halloween events throughout the year. But
Hey,
have you guys been to any of the Busch Gardens?
I haven't been to any Busch Gardens.
No.
Have you, Webba?
I mean, not Busch Gardens, but I've been to SeaWorld. I mean, that's part of their that's part of like what that company's lineup of parks, but I've never been to Busch Gardens itself.
I was gonna make a Bush joke, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna be good. So Webba, you're not into Bush, huh? Okay, whatever. It's cool.
Nah.
I was kidding. No, I haven't been, but you know what though, Slimer, in all seriousness, from what I've heard from you and other people too, it's a pretty cool experience. Like it's a quality, they're not really like cheap parks from what I understand, right? And they actually landscape from what I understand. Like there's actually it looks aesthetically pleasing. If that's what I'm hearing, at least. Is that pretty much the case?
Yeah. So Busch Gardens is, they're known for their gardens. They actually started as a big like garden park with some small rides, very similar to Cypress Gardens. That was the craze back in the 50s. But they evolved into a theme park with the ownership of Anheuser-Busch, and it really put them on the map. But they do have an entire section of the park which is nothing but gardens, and it's gorgeous. It blows away what's at Epcot, and I know that's kind of hard to comprehend, but when you go there,
because Epcot's a beautiful park in that arena. That's wild. That's high praise, Slimer. Wow.
Yeah, but you got to remember, like that was their specialty at one point. I don't think Epcot's ever claimed that as their specialty. I mean, of course, they have the horticulture, living with the land experience, which Busch Gardens doesn't have anything like that. But when it comes to like landscaping, I mean, if you want somebody to do your landscape, Busch Gardens would be great. But yeah, that's a really nice aspect of it is the fact that you can just kind of get lost. They have these trails that go through just these flower plantations, and matter of fact, they have like a bridge that goes over a body of water that goes to a kangaroo exhibit, and it's just covered with like beautiful cypress trees and vegetation. It's all very meticulously manicured. It's real nice.
Nice. Go ahead.
I actually want to kind of touch upon both your points into a new thing here, and that is, OG, you were talking about how what got you into the parks was really like the Disney Studios side, right? Because that's where they pull their IP from, right? And same for me, when I was a kid, like, I believe Disneyland was the home where all the Disney, characters, all of them, the heroes, villains, princesses, all of them, Mickey Mouse, all of them, that's where they all lived, right? And the thing I want to touch upon with Slimer, I forgot what you said, Slimer, but it has to do with like the park, like one of the park operations, and that is that so with Merlin's Entertainment, they just got a new CEO, Scott O'Neill, about a couple years ago, and I remember.
And just real quick before you go on, explain to everyone at home, in case they're not familiar, like the umbrella of parks that Merlin operates, like what parks that the people at home would know that they're familiar with,
Yes. So Merlin Entertainment's not a lot of people know. They're a British UK company, and they own over 104. They have 100 and over about. They have a little over of 140 attractions across the globe. So they have everything from all the Legolands, which there's about 10 right now. There's a new one coming up in China.
There's 10 of these Legolands already?
Yes.
Wow, that's huge.
They also own all the Madame Tussauds, all the Sea Lives. They own Alton Towers. They own Thorpe Park. A lot of the big UK coaster parks, they own those. Peppa Pig Parks, Shrek's Adventures, Cadbury Factory. Like, there's a bunch of stuff they own
Wait,
across the board.
a Peppa Pig theme park?
Yeah, those have been popping up. It's kind of been the new thing. They're very small, but they're very like kind of like sensory and like kind of really kid and autism friendly parks.
Is that kind of like what you would say, like maybe like what Universal's doing like in Texas, like that kid park, like along those lines, or
No,
is it a little smaller than that?
This is smaller, way more kiddie. But they build they build attractions for the parents can also ride with them as well. It's a very, very small park. But they do own like a lot of these different parks, especially in the UK. There's a lot more variety of stuff that they have over there than we do have here in the US. But for with Merlin Entertainments, I remember reading a article with an interview from the new CEO Scott O'Neill, and someone asked him about something with like, oh, what are you going to do like competition wise with Disney, right? And then also why I want to bring this up was because, Slimer, to your point with park operations, is that do these companies even want to be Disney or be Disney-esque? Because at least from his point of view, he's like, we're never going to beat Disney. He said our goal and the way we want to operate and have our market is a different strategy to get our guests.
That's a smart decision. And not to cut you off, but sometimes that's a smart decision. If you can't necessarily see, it's really hard for a lot of these companies to do the whole theming thing on the scale of a Disney. You know what I'm saying? I think Universal is equipped for that, but a lot of these companies aren't, So why go in there and make kind of like a half-assed Disney light when you can go in there and do something different and do that different product a lot better? You know what I'm saying? Like that makes a whole lot more sense. I think that's a smart strategy, actually. Really smart.
Yeah, exactly. So then that got me thinking. I was like, wait, so obviously all these other parks are different, right? But do we know as like fans or guests really that that's what these companies want to do? Because obviously it's different, right? Like, are we ever going to see a Sea World that's as in depth and theming and atmosphere as a Disney park is, or a Universal park is, right? Or is Six Flags going to be like that, right? Because I see Six Flags and Knott's more comparable to each other.
Right.
And to your point with IP, the other thing is that if you want to have a park that you resonate with IP with, like let's say for example Looney Tunes, right? I think that'd be great because it's in that era of what the Mickey Mouse stuff was.
Yeah. It's
So
a great IP. It's a great Looney Tunes is a great IP that's been sinfully mismanaged for like 20 plus years.
Right. Exactly. My
but
electricity.
go ahead, bro.
But yeah, so I wanted to ask you guys, like, on an operational standpoint and like a kind of and like the marketing and their strategy for these other companies, like, what do you think they should probably do, like Slimer, for like SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, in a way to increase their their guest spending, having more guests come to the park? These other non-Disney kind of Universal type of parks, what should they be doing, do you think? And also, Seymour, you too.
Yeah, what do you got? I'll start with you, Slimer, then we'll go to Seymour. What do you think, Slimer?
So are we talking specifically SeaWorld and Busch Gardens? Since you mentioned that.
I mean, just because I know you have a big passion for Busch Gardens, but really anything else outside of those parks. But yeah, so it can be I don't know, it can be any Six Flags or Six Flags, Busch Gardens, SeaWorld. I mean, Cedar Point, stuff like that.
Well, I'll use Dollywood as an example of a theme park company that's doing just about everything right because they actually just won, theme park of the year, and they've won theme park of the year several times, and I believe that's through the Theme Park Entertainment Association, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but the reason that they win over and over and over again is because of their heavy emphasis on representing Tennessee culture. So if you guys haven't been there, it's actually smack dab in the Smoky Mountains. And so you're surrounded by the mountains, and they very intelligently play to that strength. And there's a lot of Smoky Mountain culture represented in the park itself. They have an actual train there, much like the railroad train over at Disneyland Magic Kingdom, but this is like a real size train, and it blows soot into the air like a real train. It's pretty wild. Like when I saw it, I was just like, wow, like that's intense.
That's interesting. That's interesting because at Disneyland, I don't know how it is in Florida, but at Disneyland they use like canola oil or something, some clean energy thing, and it smells like canola oil when you walk under the train station. It smells kind of funky, but that's cool. At Dollywood, they actually use like the real thing. That's awesome.
They use real thing. They use it looks like coal or wood, so you really get that real effect. But then they also have a lot of like Southern food there. They specialize in Southern food. That's a niche you get over there. When they do their Harvest Festival and their Christmas Festival, I like it. It's the Harvest Festival blows away Magic Kingdom during the fall in terms of their decorations and their Halloween stuff. And their Christmas Festival is nuts too, because like it's an actual place where you actually, feel the weather that you would, you would feel during Christmas. And again, Christmas time in that part of Tennessee is massive. I mean, like it's a big tourist attraction for basically everybody in the Southeast that doesn't get snow, right? Like, so people from Florida, Georgia, Alabama, they all go to Chattanooga and to go see snow there and to go see the Christmas lights. So it's kind of a big deal. So they play towards that. And then again, like with the resorts, they don't go with any, they don't do any sort of themed resorts. They have like cabin style resorts, because that's what you do when you go to Tennessee. You go stay in a cabin and hang out in the mountains. And there is a large appeal for that. So Disney's Dollywood's got that on lock. And because of that, and because of the high level of customer service, I would say the customer service is on par with Disney. And then the cleanliness of the park is also on par with the Disney as well. And I would say all this is attributed to the fact that Dolly Parton actually has involvement in it. And she, Dolly Parton's, she's a legend, right? She's a country music, rock and roll legend. And so because her name is associated with the park and because she's still alive, the standard is to her level. So she dictates how clean, how nice, how friendly people. I mean, Dolly Parton's legendary for being a sweetheart, right? So like she's going to expect everybody to have that same Southern charm in the park, no matter what, as long as she's still alive. So yeah, that Dollywood's got that all. Now, as far as like Busch Gardens and SeaWorld, that's tough. I mean, because SeaWorld for the longest time, they've wanted to specialize in the orca exhibit, of course, and any porpoise exhibits, but they're going to be getting rid of both of those. The dolphins are probably going to go a bit away next year, and I think even the orcas are going away sometime here in the near future. And then after that, it's like, well, like what do we do now? Like, how much of a SeaWorld are they? Don't have the size of aquarium that Epcot has. I think Epcot has like the 5th largest aquarium. It'd be nice if they expanded their aquarium exhibit, maybe built one bigger than Epcot, or maybe merged Discovery Cove. I don't know if Discovery Cove is owned by SeaWorld, but if they had some kind of an experience like that where you get to swim or scuba dive with the animals, something very niche that you can't do at Universal Studios. You can scuba dive at Epcot, but it's not the same. It's a big tank. You go in there for 45 minutes and you're done. That's not what's going on to Discovery Cove. That's a lot more involved. But I would do something like that. And then as far as Busch Gardens, they specialize in Serengeti plain animals. I think they're doing that fine. I think Busch Gardens is a better version of Animal Kingdom. Except Animal Kingdom has, Pandora and the Tree of Life, and of course all the Disney characteristics to it. But if you're going exclusively for animals, but Busch Gardens had that on lock. So I think Busch Gardens is fine.
So Seymour, what are your thoughts on this, brother? How can these other parks compete? What do they do? Do they try to be Disney, or do they lean into their own strengths?
They don't need to be Disney, but they do need to be unique in their own ways.
Mhm.
'Cause if they're just generic parks, that's going to get old fast. There was Wonderland in Canada that used to do really well, but now nobody cares for it. Nobody wants to go there anymore. They usually just go in the summer because it's in Toronto, well, near Toronto, and that's it. But like even Canadians don't want to go to Wonderland. They go all the way down to Sandusky for Cedar Point because of that, even though now it's owned by the same company. It's just, it's very bland, very generic. And I see companies like even there was a park called Hard Rock Park, and people thought it was going to be really great. A music theme amusement park. They even had Bohemian Rhapsody at the end with fireworks playing at the same time. But the thing is, it was just a very generic park, and it closed down. It went out of business. Nobody cared for it because it just felt like every other park. You said it was going to be a music theme park, but you didn't. You didn't push it into your strength. You didn't spend your investment into actual good quality attractions that were theme parks for music themed, right? You just put a lot of roller coasters and said, "Hey, look, there's a guitar."
Yeah, I think that's the hard part, right? Is that there's so many parks, right? And and you as a business have to compete with all these other entertainment right parks there, and you're like, okay, how do I bring the guests in? How much are we going to charge? Because here's where we go really into the kind of operations here, right? It's because I've been to all the parks here, all the major ones that is on the West Coast, right? They all right now they're all charging theme park prices, and in my opinion, with lower quality than Disney and Universal, right? And here's the thing: people like this Disney, like the Disney fans, they complain about the cost of the parking, the price of food, the price of merchandise. Bro, you go to these other parks, they're probably just as expensive and with lower quality. And it's actually insane that I know that I still complain about the prices, of course, but then if you're like I'm saying that it's a premium experience, right? Well, then we probably have to pay the premium price, and that's where I think, at least for Disneyland, they're going to aim to be a multi-day destination, kind of like Walt Disney World, where it's just like really a vacation destination only, not like an every day you go to the park type of deal. Yeah, I think it's slowly getting there because OG, if you could real quickly actually bring up this like one of the schedules
Sure. Which one?
quick. Really anyone, I guess Knots or something, anyone. Because if you look right, obviously right now we're going into the holiday time, right? So hours are going to be a little bit longer, especially on the weekends. But I mean, really, look at right here. Knott's Berry Farm 10 to 9, 10 to 5, or 10 to 6, right? 10 to 6, and it's like off Thursday, 10 to 5:30, right? And I was looking at Snot, Six Flags, SeaWorld, they all have these standard like short times of like 8 to 9 hours in a typical day. And even some days or even some days where they're not even open. Like there's some days where Six Flags are not even open, and then so it's like, okay, well, really, Disneyland, we're accustomed to being, going to be able to go to the park every day of the year. And some of these other parks, they're not doing that, but yet no one's really complaining about it. Like we're not hearing any complaints from people about them not being open, or they have short too little hours, or how expensive the food is. At least I'm not hearing anything about that.
Well, and it's interesting you bring up the food though too, because this is actually from our friends Attractions 360, and great content creators, by the way. They've actually been real supportive of this channel early on when I started, so that they're fantastic guys. But it says here, eating at Disneyland is more affordable than at other theme parks in Southern California. Prices are comparable to food court at the mall. So Disneyland's the least expensive, Universal's number 2. Knott's, SeaWorld, and Six Flags is very expensive. And I've heard that. I've heard Six Flags is really pricey. I heard Six Flags parking is really pricey, which is interesting because, okay, you talk about Ebba, like this premium experience that Disney and Universal both provide. And I think we all agree they do provide an amazing experience. You can justify higher prices. I know people don't want it, but if you're gonna serve filet mignon, right? Theoretically, you can charge filet mignon prices. That just kind of makes a whole lot of sense. You're not going to go to McDonald's and pay filet mignon prices for a quarter pounder. That's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? But that's kind of what it feels like with Six Flags. It's not the cleanest park. You know, it's not very well maintained. The product hasn't been that great, but you're paying more for food. You're paying more for parking. You're paying more. Like, that's crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? And
Well, okay.
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
No, and I was gonna say too, because I've been looking at other like price comparables for like the theme parks, right? And right now, all the theme parks are pretty much paying your average $35, if not more, right? So here's a funny thing I've noticed is that Disney kind of sets the standards in price, but still offering a quality experience. These other theme parks follow suit in the price, but really don't maintain that high quality of standard, whether that's customer service or having hotels, resorts, like Summer, which you brought up, right? Or just having quality of product in the park itself. So the prices are going up, but your quality for these other parks aren't really showing it that much.
And I've heard SeaWorld is really bad with the foods and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
like really like highway robbery, basically.
Well,
Oh, go ahead, Seymour.
I was just gonna say I saw a video from the Try Guys. They did like the food videos for Disney, Universal, and I saw one for Six Flags. And they went in on a Monday and they were closed early. I think like 6 p.m. And half of the restaurants were closed that you're supposed to eat, and then all the other half of the food he said it was very expensive. And you can see the food that he's buying, and they're not up to par to like even Disney. And it's just like they're trying to make up their margins up from the tickets for the food, but the food is not even that good.
Well, see, Seymour, to your point though, when you said, a short day, that's what I'm talking about. Is that we're so used to going to these premium parks, such as Universal and Disney, where we expect them to be open till 10, 11, midnight, 1 o'clock. Whereas other parks, on the typical day, they're only open till like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. And for someone like us, that's short. That's like, what the hell is that? That's a super short day.
So
I want to stay there longer.
So on that note, I'm looking at Six Flags over Georgia here. I've never been to Six Flags over Georgia. I've told myself I was going to go, and I tell myself every year, "Hey, I'm going to go to Six Flags over Georgia," and I never end up going. But yeah, I'm looking at their calendar, and I'm going to go ahead and share this with you guys. This is ridiculous.
Let's check this out. Let's see what this is about.
It's live.
Here we go.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What day? What days are they open?
That's kind of what I'm talking about, right? And on top of this, how do these other theme parks guys? How do they even make their money? Because here's the thing, I'm not rooting for these parks to fail, right? At all. I want every park to succeed. But how do you, as a business, really maintain and operate and bring in financial like profit or even just revenue when like you're closed for like a big chunk of your month?
By killing the competition and buying them.
Oh, that's interesting. Go ahead and elaborate on this.
Because Six Flags merged with Cedar Fair. So now essentially the other half of the competition got merged into one big competition, so that now, if you go to Six Flags or Cedar Point, it doesn't matter because it's all of us at once. So now you go for that midway park, you're going to go to them now.
Right. And then so seeing this banner here, right, how they have like that 70% off right there. Tell me, and OG, we talked about this on the last show we did. Tell me, how often do we ever see? Because even back in the day at Disneyland, you used to be able to get a discount when you renewed your pass. That doesn't happen anymore, right? All these other theme parks, yes, their quality is probably lower, the food price sucks even more, or whatever, and their hours are even less. But they're way more budget friendly, right? Like pretty much all of them outside Universal / even actually Universal to some extent they do, but Disney, they're the more budget financially friendly, right? Like you can get like a percentage off. It's like a buy one get one free, buy two get one free, right? You get a highest annual pass, you can bring in 6 people or something like that, right? They have all these other discounts and benefits that Disney doesn't add. But here's why they don't: because they don't have to. I was telling my coworker this. I was like, they don't have to do this because they know people are going to pay anyway, and they know this. And whereas if these other parks continually sold at high prices and didn't give you discounts if you bought online versus the gate, which Disney doesn't do really, they would probably suffer. So Disney doesn't have to do this because they know the super hardcore fans, which there's a lot of them, they're going to just buy it anyway. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's like going to the grocery store, right? Or like even Walmart when you shop clothing and you see the 2-for-1 sales, you see the discounts for 50% off. They have to because they know it's not selling well. Well, you're never going to see a discount at Louis Vuitton because they always sell well.
exactly.
Yeah.
And at Louis, you only have to sell like a few purses a day to
Yeah.
like make what you need to make.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's a great point, Seymour.
It's pricing power for Disney. They have this strong moat, and Universal to an extent, that the fandom, the Disney culture is strong enough that they don't actually have to decrease their prices.
Right.
Well, and another thing too is, and I made this point many times on the channel before as well. When you have a luxury brand, like you were talking about, Seymour, right? Like you talk like, you're talking like Chanel, or you're talking, Gucci or Louis Vuitton, right? You can't be having a 70% off sale outside of Chanel, right? This is a luxury premium brand. The heavy discounts chip away at your brand image in a lot of ways, right? You kind of like, if Disney were to do that, if Disney were to do what we just saw with the banner for Six Flags, 70% off, it cheapens the brand. It hurts the brand. It makes it look like your Big Lots or your
Yes.
some discount place. You know what I'm saying?
And this is why I found it really funny when Nelson Peltz did his 133-page white pages saying that, the parks are too expensive. They need to go down in price. Why?
Why?
When the people are still paying for it.
Right.
You're
They're
going to
still paying for
devalue
it.
the quality of Disney by just cheaping it, the prices.
Yeah, exactly. You exactly, Seymour. Like that high end price. I know a lot of people don't want to pay more. I don't want to pay more, but that's part of that premium brand optics and image. That's what makes Disney seem like the high end. You start playing these 70% off discount games like Six Flags does, and you start to look like a discount brand, and that's not good for the image. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, actually, to your point too, your same point that you always bring up is Universal doing the Universal Kids Park as well, because you always
Right.
say it's going to damage the Universal brand for what they're really known for. Go
Well,
ahead.
yeah, because with the Universal Kids Park, it's supposed to be basically like the DreamWorks land they just put in Universal Florida, right? It's okay for kids, but basically this kids park in Texas is going to be a giant one of those essentially, right? With various IP, like I think DreamWorks and like SpongeBob and Dollhouse. I don't know all the IPs, but the issue with that park, and I've made this point so many times, where it's like, for people living in Texas, a lot of people, that will be their first introduction to the Universal brand as a theme park entity. Their first introduction to the Universal as a theme park will be that kid park, which is going to be far inferior quality to something like Epic Universe. And that's not good for your brand image. That you want to talk brand damage, that does brand damage. That turns Universal, and this is the frustrating thing. Universal has spent decades trying to become more Disney-like, trying to become the equal. We've talked about, they make a premium product, and then they're going to build these regional kid parks on the cheap, and they're going to start nicking away at all the work they did the last 20 plus years.
Okay, Summer.
Well, what I was going to say was, is if you guys have been looking at the tab that I've been sharing for the last couple of minutes, it's Dollywood.
Yeah.
And Dollywood really knows how to placate towards the high income earners. And you can tell this because their marketing, their photography, they invest a lot into it. They invest a lot into the way their page looks. They take a lot of plays out of Disney's own page, whether it's Disneyland or Walt Disney World. And they understand that when you start placating towards the low-income earners, no offense to low-income earners, I'm not a high-income earner, okay? It's a race to the bottom. It's a race to the bottom, and it's a bottomless pit. And that's exactly what Six Flags, and I think to a degree, Busch Gardens and SeaWorld really don't understand, is that once you start going down that path, there's really no turning back. Like, you can't stop on a dime, pivot, do a 180, and now consider yourself a premium theme park. You know what I mean? Like, once you've already labeled yourself as, hey, we're offering premium discounts, 70% off, buy one, get one Halloween Horror Nights tickets, or Hollow Scream tickets. That's it. It's kind of over for you.
Yeah.
So I mean, in a lot of sense, because Dolly Parton is still alive and because she's been an entertainer, like a world-class entertainer for the better part of what, 60 years. I mean, she understands it. I mean, look at this. This
Food
is
looks incredible.
yeah, this is premium advertising. Dollywood will never have that issue. You will never see them give those massive, just they're just not going to race to the bottom the way that Six Flags is. Not
Yeah.
even
So-
close.
And we see how Six Flags. We're gonna get into it with Seymour in a little bit, but we see how that race to the bottom hurts you financially. They're not doing so great. But go ahead, Webba.
So gee, I wanted to talk to actually tell you guys about the point of right because with the Universal Kids thing, and that's gonna be their first introduction. But I kind of want to pivot a little bit to now what we're discussing on how these other parks are actually kind of more of the norm for like your everyday type of park versus Universal and Disney, right? How is that now viewed as from hardcore fans like us and then the normies, right?
So what you're saying is, if I'm getting it right, these other parks, the Busch Gardens, the Six Flags, the Cedar Fairs, is a norm for the general public.
Yes,
Right?
because for us, we're like us, right? And especially Twitter, right? If Disney Universal is not on point with their shit, we're like what the hell? What are you doing, right? Like we're a very spoiled bunch when it comes to these parks, right?
Oh,
But
100%.
Slimer, to your point though, because that's because they have set that high bar expectation, so that's what we expect, right? And then with these other parks, especially even the general public, they're like, oh, this happened over there, or it was close, or whatever inconvenient thing that happens with another park, they don't care as much as they do with the Disney or Universal.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of emotional investment in Disney, and I think that's part of the reason why there's so much anger towards Disney. A lot of Disney fans take things personal too.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you took out the thing that I love, and it's like a personal attack on them or something. It's like, and I never understood that, but it's the case. It's a very emotionally charged kind of situation. Whereas you take a Cedar Fair thing or a Six Flags thing, and those places just aren't wrapped up in people's emotions like the Disney brand is. So I think that's a big element of it. But in terms of being spoiled, you're absolutely right, Webba. Like I've even noticed this with myself firsthand, like watching Disney fireworks, growing up on Disney fireworks my whole life, and even the last maybe 15, 20 years when Disney has really stepped it up with like these synchronized shows, before like Fantasy in the Sky, they would just shoot fireworks off and play Disney music, basically, what I'm saying? But now it's like, you have Remember Dreams Come True, and they have the firework, like it's a Pirates of the Caribbean and Cannonball.
Yes.
Over the castle, and it's actually like synchronized to the music, and it hits all the beats, right? So I've grown up around those kind of shows at Disney, and then I'll go to like the local park out here in my area for 4th of July, and they have fireworks, and I'm like, oh, what is it? What is this? What is this? I'm spoiled. There's no projection mapping. There's no like, what is this boring ass shit? So it definitely messes with you. You do become an elitist when it comes to stuff. When you go to Disney so much, and then you try this other smaller scale stuff, it kind of ruins it a little bit. I don't know. Have you noticed that too, Slimer, or is it different for you?
No, I've definitely noticed that. I try to manage my expectations when it comes to a lot of the other parks, particularly amusement parks. Managing expectations is really important. Now, you did say, how did the normies view it? Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I actually have a friend who recently just planned his first trip ever to Walt Disney World. He wanted to take his girlfriend Epcot on her 21st birthday. They had a blast, and he knew that I knew a lot about the park, so he picked my brain a lot. And I asked him when he got back. I didn't talk to him while he was there. I was like, let him have a good time. And I talked to him when he got back, and he's like, man, that was really awesome. We couldn't stop talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. I was like, yeah, dude, like that ride's pretty awesome. He's like, man, that ride was amazing. And then he went to, where did he go? He went to Epcot, and he also went to Hollywood Studios. Loved Rise of Resistance. It broke down, whatever. He loved Tower of Terror. And I was like, look, before he left, I was like, look, you got to go check out Fantasmic. And he's like, what is that like? I was like, well, it's a show. He's like, I'm not into shows, but my girlfriend's really into Broadway style shows. So I guess I'll go check it out. I was like, trust me, you guys will love it. So he gets back and he's like, dude, you're right about he calls it fantastic. He's like, you're right about he's like, you're right about fantastic. I'm like, that was pretty awesome. He's like, when the monkeys come out on the boats, I was like, so that's what did it for you. The monkeys coming out on the boats, huh? You know,
Of all the
But
things, right?
of all the things. But yeah, like it impressed him a lot more than what he thought he was going to be impressed. And it's those little takeaway moments that make you lifelong fans. Like when he rode Guardians of the Galaxy, he's going to want to ride that again from now till Kingdom Come. You know what I mean? He's a huge Star Wars fan, and he's going to want to go ride Rise of the Resistance again. It's a once in a lifetime, you know, it's only one place or two places throughout the entire world, and you're going to want to relive that experience because of, you know, the dopamine hit it gives you when you do it as is the first time. And like the rest of us, we spend the rest of our lives chasing that dragon. You know what I mean? We never get to actually experience the first time again, but we sure as hell chase it, you know, to the point where some people are doing it 70, 80, 90 times a year, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And that's one thing I kind of want to touch upon too, is like, I'm a huge Disney head. I love Disney. Like, obviously, like I dedicate so much time with the channel regarding Disney. I grew up on it. And I'm there pretty often. I'm there like once a month-ish, you know, like pretty much like once a month average. But I never understood, and to each their own. Everyone's got their own cup of tea. Everyone's got their own life. You do what you want to do, you know. But I couldn't do the whole like, you know, 2 times a week thing. Like that would for me personally, that would ruin it. Like because you get bored. Like even going once a month, for example, right at Disneyland. I go and I don't really have any motivation to even ride anything because I've been on it all. Like I just want to walk around and like just like, you know, drink or eat or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And that's only going once a month. I couldn't imagine like some of these people who go like these magic key holders who go multiple times a week. Like don't you get burnt out? For me, it no longer is like. There comes a point where, and I try to be very careful with it personally, but like there comes a point when it's almost like you desensitize yourself so much to it that it becomes the mall, you know, or something.
Yeah, you're right, because even, you know, I got my magic key again, right? Because I so wanted to go to Disney, and then I, you know, went, right? And I was like, man, it's so worth having the key again, and it is, and I'm grateful I have it. But even now, again, after having, you know, been with you guys for like, you know, I went 3 times last month, right? And, you know, having been now, it's like I'm starting to feel that again. And I'm like, well, maybe I might not just go for a few months, you know, because I've done everything so many times. And here's the thing, while it's so much fun, I'm grateful and privileged I can go. It's like, well, I feel like I do get desensitized into like the sensations of the attraction, the visuals of the park, you know, everything that's there. And it's like, okay, well, I don't. It's just like I've done it, you know, already a bunch of times, and I feel like that the more you try, Slavic, to your point, the more you try to get that first time feeling, and the more you go. At least for me, this is how it is for me. The less, the further that goalpost moves.
Yes, you become you become desensitized to it. Like it's like if you become an alcoholic, for example, right? Like the first time you ever have a beer, you can have just probably 1 bottle of beer, and wow, because it's your first time it's ever hitting your system. You're like, oh man, I'm kind of dizzy, you know, that one beer that kind of got me, you know. But after 4 or 5 years, and you're doing beers every night, 1 beer ain't can do nothing to you. You know what I'm saying? Now you need 6 beers or 8 beers to even get the same feeling as the 1 beer. You know, same thing with Disney. It's like you're never going to get that same dopamine hit as that first trip. You know what I'm saying? So now you need to go, like you were saying, Eva, you gotta go again. You gotta go again. You gotta go again. You gotta go again. And you're chasing that dopamine hit. But the ironic thing is that the more you chase it and the more you go and you go and you go, the less and less you feel it, because you get so accustomed to it, it becomes commonplace, you know?
Well, exactly. I go there and I feel like I get there. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm here at Disneyland. Whereas when I rebought my Magic Key again this year, I went back after being off for not having it for like, you know, a year or so. And I know I went with you guys, you know, with my ticket and stuff like that. But I went there, I was like, oh, this is so cool. You know, obviously I've been there already many times, but the feeling I got was different when I got my Magic Key back compared to what like the 8, 9, 10 times I've been already this year. You know, so it's hit very differently for me as of now.
It's different. Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, for example, Seymour, right? Seymour is not a regular park goer. You know, he said he's been to Disney, but it's been a long time. It's been a while for Universal. When Seymour goes, the next time he goes to Disneyland or the next time he goes to Disney World, that time is going to hit so much different for Seymour than it would for like you and
I
I,
agree.
right?
Right. So then on top, so with these other parks, right? These other non-Disney, non-Universal parks, Seymour, do we know the numbers um on like how like if they get more kind of locals who go to their parks or if they get more tourists who go to the parks? And that's why everybody loves going because people generally go to them like maybe twice a year, maybe once every other year. So the fun factor is more heightened when in these kind of lower standard parks for these guests.
I wish I could find those numbers. I don't think they give those out, even if they could find out.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna think because I'll talk to people at work or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to Six Flags, but it's like it's not something like that they do constantly, right? It's like a once a year type of thing. They go there, have a blast, but then it's like, yeah, it's like yeah, we'll go again maybe next year or like 6 months from now, right?
Right.
Whereas Disneyland is really centered, and I mean a lot of the parks on the West Coast are right, OG. A lot of them are centered in like by where everybody lives. Disneyland is right in the middle of Anaheim, so it's like
Yeah.
so Nas is right there too. They're 10 minutes away.
Oh, Universal is really in the middle of
Yeah, it's
everything.
right in the middle. We have Legoland that's really right in the middle of like some hotels, a golf course, and like a freeway. So yeah, these parks are very condensed into like where everybody lives at. So you have a lot of people who do go there a lot. Um, but I want to speak on also operations two, Slimer. Have you noticed at these other parks, even Dollywood or maybe even Hershey Park or Busch Gardens, SeaWorld, Six Flags, have you noticed that the way they operate, like, ride efficiency, right? Efficiency with like food and beverage, how quickly they can turn around the guests, right? I've noticed at least here, it's not that great compared to Universal or
Knott's is
Disney.
terrible. I like Knott's a lot, but Knott's is terrible with it. I feel like you wait forever for everything at Knott's. You in line for food, you're waiting. It's like an attraction. You wait forever. You go to the attraction. I mean, I remember waiting for the log ride and the mine cart thing. It just takes forever for everything. But what say you, Slimer?
So it depends on the park, and it also depends on the event. So when we were in Halloween Horror Nights last weekend, for example, it started pouring. And when it started raining really bad, the people running the concession stands started making real big mistakes. Did we just lose OG?
Oh yeah.
The people at the concession stand started making real big mistakes, like to the point where I think like we had like 3 or 4 bad or wrong orders in one night from people at concession stands, and so it turned into a thing. And I think it was because a lot of the employees there were just brought on for Halloween Horror Nights, and it was their first week. And so these are like new hires that have never worked a job before, right out of high school. And so it's I don't want to say it's forgivable. There needs to be better training. All right. With regard to Busch Gardens, it's pretty hit and miss. Busch Gardens food is very expensive. Customer service is, I would say, hit and miss. You know what I mean? And the same with SeaWorld. Their training is a lot better than some of the other places. Universal's is okay. I think that they rushed it because of Halloween Horror Nights. I mean, that's a big, massive event. And they ran more concession stands than usual this year because they actually had themed booths, and by themed I mean themed to the movies. And then the food presentation was a big aspect this year. It's all over social media, and so their labor was probably double what it was last year just based off of that alone. In terms of ride management, Universal Studios is probably on par with Disney. Probably because a lot of the management that works at Disney comes to Universal and vice versa. And so they're always playing musical chairs. So a lot of that pedigree mixes. But with regard to Busch Gardens, I'll tell you that the cast members that are working the rides over there, they don't give a shit, man. Like they're not friendly, or if they are friendly, it's very like passe. I saw this one guy, he was like, he had his phone and he was like hanging on the bar like this, and he was just kind of like hanging on, he was like messing with his phone like this. He's like, come on, like this. You would never see that at Disney at all. I mean, that's an automatic coaching right there, you know.
Yeah,
So,
well,
and you know that matters for those first time guests. Not that Busch Gardens gets a lot of first time guests compared to, but if you there it is. But if you want to retain those guests, like those little things go a long way.
yes, and also too with that too, Slimer, right? Is I know like a lot of these amusement parks don't really care about like backstage stuff, right? I mean, like Disney Universal, it's like you know, I know this goes with the whole theme park thing, right? It's like that the guest is enveloped into the world. You don't see the outside world or backstage areas, right? You go to Six Flags, you get on the coaster, you see the entire like parking lot. You see hotels and restaurants, everything, right? Like they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
It's all about that. And then with rides too, right? Like one of my last experience at SeaWorld was infuriating. Okay, so I went about a couple of years ago or so, and the ride operations, the food service was just insane. And again, maybe it's because I'm a spoiled person. This goes again with how other amusement park theme parks operate versus the premium parks, right? I went to ride on Journey to Atlantis, and which I really like that ride. It's like a hybrid coaster water ride.
Yeah. It's
Of course,
interesting. I like that one out here too. It's fun.
yeah. I mean, of course, it's not as good as the Orlando one, but yeah, I still like it. Anyways, it was like a slow day, right? I get in the single rider line, and I'm like the fourth one in. There's nobody in the main queue. Some guy, we have one team member directing, doing the traffic for all the queues, right? And then you have this one person guest comes up, talks to him for like 10 minutes, asking him for stuff. And then there's 5 boats that go by empty out of the station. We're not even moving. I probably waited like 15 minutes to get out of that to get out of that queue when there was no people in the main queue to begin with, but then they started piling up. I was like, dude, what the hell? And then with the food service, it's all cafeteria style food. And that's also like I like a lot of these parks. A lot of them are cafeteria style now. Even with with that Legoland, they're all going to more like you self serve. It's like kind of like McDonald's where you pick on the screen. They're all
Yeah.
moving to that now, where it's you pick your food and then you get your order, you get called up, and you pick it up, right? So there's a lot of these things that happen that the level of quality of the turnaround times for serving guests in some capacity are way lower than for Disney and Universal. And as someone who's kind of I guess a snob, I guess you could say, right, from that experience with Disney Universal, it really infuriates me. I'm like, why is it so slow? Like that really creates a bad guest experience. But maybe for the normie guest, it doesn't matter. But again, maybe that for them, that's the normal theme park experience. And that's kind of what the point I'm trying to bring across is that actually the regular normal theme park amusement park experience, and people just don't realize it. And then for us hardcore theme park fans for Disney Universal, that's like, well, why is this like that? It should be better, right?
Yeah, I think in California and Florida, there's a little bit of that, like where it's like people are used to the high end, product, right? Disney Universal, right? Because Disney and Universal are the kings of both Southern California and Central Florida, right?
Yeah.
But I think once you get towards like the middle of the country, like where Dollywood is and things like that, the Midwest, yeah, these kind of like the regional kind of park operations is the norm. That's what they're used to. That's very much what they're used to. Out here, we do have that constant comparison because we have both. We have Disney and Universal, but we also have little parks like Knott's.
Well, we'll see, but then also we have those same people, OG, who come from the Midwest or the South, who go to both of these parks as well. Six Flags, Knott's Berry Farm, or whatever other park that's out here, so their experience is both. So to them, is it a big deal as it is to us? That's.
I think once you have a point of reference, then it becomes a big deal.
Yeah. Once you experience it, it's like it's kind of hard to unexperience that thing, and now it's in your head,
Right.
Yeah. And that kind of goes to some information that Mr. Seymour found. He actually went to Six Flags numbers, and he was able to pull up the latest quarterly earnings and year-over-year earnings by quarter, and they're not good. And what that tells me is that people are bypassing Six Flags for higher quality experiences.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. Seymour, if you want to kind of set the table with this because this is kind of interesting with Six Flags.
Seymour.
Oh yeah, if you can click earnings release, I think.
Yeah, I got you.
Or it will be the same thing as the PDF, I'm assuming.
All right.
Yeah, and so this is right off of Six Flags website,
Okay.
and investors is actually one of the tabs up in the top. So they're so hard up on cash that investors is a tab at the very top. They're basically screaming, "We need money. We need money to make this
Oh
work."
man.
Despite the fact that they just got bought out by Cedar Point.
Now, Slimer, do you think, or Slimer and Seymour, do you think that's because Six Flags? Because I don't know the actual backstory. Was it because Six Flags, they were hurting and they were looking for someone to buy them out? Especially because since they're kind of all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that they're looking for
Yeah.
Cedar Fair to just buy them out? Like, hey, no, we're drowning. We're willing to sell to you guys and kind of merge.
That's a done deal. They were bought out. Cedar Point owns a majority share, and now they're going to be using them as cash flow. And what the parts that exist, but
Yeah, and you touched upon that earlier, Seymour, where it was kind of like this move that where Cedar Fair and Six Flags merge was kind of like, well, what would you
they
call
just
it?
killed their own competition by just merging.
Yeah. Why bother bettering our product? We'll just buy the competition, and now you're forced into going to our parks no matter what you do. Basically.
Exactly.
But then Seymour, what does this do for Knott's Berry Farm?
Oh, well, that's we should see that in the future, because right now we don't know what the results are going to be. We don't know the extra cost of it, because now everything. If you look at even the net income, if you scroll down.
Yeah, I got you. Hold on one sec.
This is before them. They did the earnings as pre-merger, and the next report is going to be merged together. But if you look at the net income, it's very low. And I don't know. And even if you do 6 months, they're losing money. So these 3 months is 9.7%, and then at 6 months it's a negative 11.6%. I don't know what they're gonna do. I hope it's not just kill the competition and get quick cash fast to survive. Because now you kill the competition, it doesn't matter where you go. We're gonna get all the money, and I'm hoping it's not that. And I'm hoping they reinvest into their amusement parks and ensure a better quality, but I got a feeling it's not. And for the competition, though, I mean, if they're going to keep on the same trajectory right now without making it better, 'cause let me tell you, I don't go to Wonderland anymore. I don't go to Cedar Point anymore. I don't care to pay for the mid experience of an amusement park. I'd rather just save my money, wait 3 to 4 years, and then go to Disneyland, go to Disney World. I've been thinking about going to Japan. I don't want to go to these mid parks anymore. It's been my money, and my friends and family feel the same way. We don't want to go to those parks anymore, and these are just very generic. And I've already experienced it over and over again. And I've been to Disneyland once, and I loved it. And I want that same experience when I go to Tokyo, but maybe even better because it's Japan. I mean, come on, Japan.
Exactly.
And in Universal and with a Pokemon and Mario and Nintendo Land, this is what I want from that experience. I'm not going to get that from here, and I'd rather just save it. And I don't know how they're going to do it, unfortunately. And I really don't know, because they're just dying slowly. I see that their revenues have gone up a little bit because inflation is high, so people don't go to Disney World as much. They go to the lower tier, but I don't think that's going to survive once the rates get cut.
Yeah. Look at this, right? If you start right from the top, their admissions quarter over quarter from Q2 to Q3 went from 242 million to 312 million. Food and merchandise 179 to 248 million. I mean, those are big jumps. Accommodations, extra charge, products, and other. I mean, so upcharges, 78 to 111. I mean, selling, general, and administrative, 67 million to 154 million, and they still went, and they still were negative 90 $90 million. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
The operating
So-
expenses are nuts here. Like, if you look at operating here, operating expenses jump from 236 million to 383 and then 369 million.
We lost him. We lost him.
But yeah,
We'll bring him back once he gets on. But go ahead.
these parks are low margin business. They're not like Disney. You know, you get that high quality experience, but they're also getting their margins for it. They're getting like 30% net profit margins from their parks. Over here, it's like a little sliver from compared to what Disney does.
Well, and Seymour, I want to bring up on this extra charge products thing. This right here, right? It's because here's the thing: everybody, including me, you know, has been kind of bitching and complaining about, you know, the Genie Plus thing, the Lightning Lane crap. You know, Disney kind of, you know, nickel and diming you left and right, right? But here's the thing, though. Again, I think this is where the kind of privilege-y side comes out in the fans, is that when you look at these other theme parks outside of Universal and Disney, right? If you get out of the bubble, look at these other theme parks. Do you know how many of these other theme parks / amusement parks nickel and dime you for extra stuff?
Oh,
Yes,
SeaWorld is the worst with that.
dude, it's cheaper up front, but then, oh look, here's a drink add-on, a meal add-on, a parking add-on, you know, an add-on for this and that. And then as soon as you know it, you're paying as much as like a Disney ticket, pretty much, right? It's like,
Right.
you know what I mean? And you're still getting a lower quality experience. And plus, you know, you got the Flash Pass, you got the Quick Queue, you know, Legoland, you have the Reserve Ride, which is more expensive than the Lightning Lane. They have 3 different options or group options. Well, technically 4. You can do either individual ride or you can do I think 3 group options. And the lower one starts like at 65 per person. Then it goes to like 80 per person. Then it's like 105 or something per person, right? And and then at Knott's Berry Farm, you have all these other, again, I forgot what is it? What's the one at Knott's called?
Well, I'm not sure.
Fast Lane or something, I think, like that, or whatever. But Knott's has a bunch of add-ons. Because my coworker has a Knott's Pass, but you look at it and you can add this and this and this and this, and like pretty soon her $200 pass becomes like an $800, $900 pass, right? So it's like,
exactly. Well, and that's the thing I've been talking about for a long time too, Eva, where it's like, it's a shell game. It's a shell game. It's like, Disney looks very expensive, like at face value. It absolutely does, and it is. I mean, for a lot of people, it is expensive. But when you look at these other companies and how they do it, you don't pay that much to get in the door. But like you were saying, you go to SeaWorld, you're paying an arm and a leg for the food. Six Flags, arm and a leg for the food
and parking.
So and parking. So are you really saving? Is it really that much cheaper? I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
No, exactly. And that's the thing, is that I feel like that nobody else. Again, we all have different interests, right? Like my huge interest, I mean, I do love theme parks, right? But my primary ones are Disney and then like now Universal, right? So I think a lot of the fandom, they don't even explore those, and that's why that's why I actually really love Theme Park Obsession. Shout out to him, because he goes to a bunch of theme parks.
And he's a nice dude too. We met him at Universal. He's cool.
Yeah, I know, he's very cool. But but he goes and experiences all these other coaster parks. He loves coasters, right? So you get like this different variety and views of how other parks are operating, right?
Mondo too. Mondo is everywhere.
Oh, is he really? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yep. Hell yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, we saw him at D23. He's a fun guy. We love Mondo.
That's so
fun.
Cool.
You know what's funny though? I have a Six Flags just down the street, and I haven't gone to it yet.
Dude, just to see more, you should go and do like a review for us, man.
It's on an island, and it's like I can go there. It's over a bridge, but it's like I don't bother. I already been to those type of parks. Like I said, I'd rather go to the big parks. I want that experience. And if I'm gonna pay so much money for food and stuff that's nearby, no, thank you. I'm not gonna pay all that money.
Yeah,
give me that better experience with Disney. Even when I said like Tokyo is half the cost for it, it's like I'm gonna go all out. I'm gonna get that special access. I want to go front of the line. I want everything for it, because if I'm gonna get that quality, at least I know I'm gonna get it. But here, if I have to pay for all of that and still get the same price, no.
Well, and that's the thing too, Seymour. Like I live in Southern California. I've never been, not once, to Six Flags, Magic Mountain. It's called Magic Mountain here. I've never been to Magic Mountain. Never, not once. Now I've been to their water park one time. It's like next door or whatever, the water park. I forgot what it's called. It's not Soak City. It's I don't remember.
Wait, OG, hold on a sec. Is Soak City what you call your OG 55 experience?
Yeah, Soak City, exactly, bro. Exactly. It's Soak City, baby. Exactly. Oh man, you're great, Web. I love you, man. Yeah, but I've never been to Six Flags Magic Mountain because why would I go? Like, I'm not like, dude, I don't even go on Mission Breakout. Like, why am I going to go to Six Flags? What am I going to do there? You know, it's like,
Right.
you know,
Well,
and there's no atmosphere, which I've said so many times. I'm like our boy Bricky. Hey, Bricky, like I'm vibes over rides, 100%. That's why I love Animal Kingdom so much. It's all vibes. You know what I'm saying? Six Flags ain't gonna give me any vibes. It's a parking lot.
I want to ask you guys. Do you guys think culturally in the U.S. at least that we're moving kind of slowly to more of a vibes atmospheric, wanting more of that type of park versus back in the day when it was all about the thrills, and that's why maybe these parks like Six Flags are kind of maybe struggling because people
Awesome.
want more than just coasters, which are fine in itself, but people are wanting more in-depth things than just coasters.
Well, yeah, because here's the other thing too. We live in a new world with social media and Instagram. You go on Instagram and it's a bunch of food and titties. That's all you see on Instagram. Food and titties.
I love that.
Yeah, that's all you see, you know. But
Ebba's two favorite things.
yeah, exactly. I think we can all agree those two things are pretty fantastic, you know. But but in all seriousness though, like we live in a very Instagram culture. So places like Universal, places like Disney are very cater to that Instagram culture because what do? If you go to Universal, you go to Super Nintendo World, there's 1.5 million Instagrammable moments. You walk in and you're going to get a picture in the tube. You're going to go to Toadstool Cafe. You get a picture with your themed chicken burger. You know what I'm saying? It's like everything's themed. There's 1,000,001 different Instagram opportunities at Universal and Disney, right? What are you going to Instagram at Six Flags?
You get a picture with the Viper coaster, maybe? I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's a problem because we live in this new age where these young people, they want that Instagrammable moment. They want to be able to post these cool things on social media. And a lot of these like bare minimum amusement parks really don't offer a lot of that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know, and the thing too is theme parks in a very real way replace traveling internationally for a lot of people.
Sure.
Especially if you're a professional and you just don't have the time, or if you don't have the desire to take, 7 days out of your work week. And if a lot of people rely on you at work and you have the inability, or you just can't come up with a reason to go to Japan or go to, Prague, what do? You go to Disney World, you go to Universal Studios. You might go spend a weekend in Colorado and spend some time in the mountains. But what Disney World and Universal offer is they offer those highly themed areas that when you post them on social media, people are just equally as impressed that you're there versus like Oahu, especially for somebody that doesn't live in that area. Like, I can tell you that, I think everybody here has these friends. Like, you got your friend that lives in Kansas or North Dakota or whatever, and they see that you're, you're at the Magic Kingdom for like the 19th time this year. And they're just like, shit, like, I gotta go. And to them, it's just as good as, getting on a plane and going to Paris. You know what I mean? So like, and this is the reality for a lot of people. And so I know that's my reality because I haven't traveled internationally in a very long time. The last time I went international was when I got married. We did an elopement wedding. But yeah, that's my international travel. And for a lot of people to go to Epcot, that's their international travel.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, you get the same value in a weird way.
Yeah, at Epcot, you go to Mexico and Japan all in one afternoon. It's actually the thing I love about Epcot, though. In all seriousness, the thing I love about Epcot is how they have people from that region of the world, like operating like the food stands and stuff. So when you go to Japan Pavilion, the people there that are ringing you up and taking your order and stuff, they're from Japan, which is pretty awesome. I like that a lot. But you were going to say something?
I think I was, but I forgot.
I got something to say. I at least with friends and family, I've noticed that a lot of them don't want to spend a lot of money as they used to before. They're saving money. They're saving their money, and they don't want to spend on a mediocre experience. Even for the movie theaters, I see a lot of people going for the VIP experience. No kids, 18 plus, get the drinks, get the good food, right? Instead of paying just popcorn and hot dogs and nachos. Even me, right? The only time I ever go, right? Even for Deadpool and Wolverine, I went to the VIP experience because I didn't want any kids. Well, even though there shouldn't be any kids, but but yeah, I got a nice recliner, comfy seats that were heated if I needed to. I got chicken wings. I got a burger. I got my Long Island iced tea, 2 of them, and I was sitting there relaxed, and that was a good experience, a VIP experience, like IMAX screen and everything. And it's like, that's what I'm willing to pay for. I'm not willing to go to like a mediocre movie now anymore.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, because as inflation has reduced the purchasing power of our dollar, we value our money more. And so that means that we're not going to go like in Seymour's case, you're not going to spend money frivolously on half-assed things. Because why? Because the money doesn't take you as far.
Right.
It doesn't have the same purchasing power. So it's like, well, if I'm going to spend it, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to get the good shit,
Right.
Exactly.
And I think that ties in directly as to what's going on right now with Busch Gardens and Six Flags and SeaWorld and those massive discounts that we're seeing. Those two things they're connected. People do not want to spend their hard-earned cash on experiences that are only going to take them 2/3 of the way there.
Yeah, seriously, here's Lambert. I agree with I agree with you guys. But do you guys think that there's a point, even with Disney, let me just say Disney, that there's a point because even with they are so strapped on cash and with inflation, whatever, right? Is that even though we value the experience of those parks more than, let's say, SeaWorld, Six Flags, Busch Gardens, whatever, that even then when you look at the price of a Disney trip, especially if you're flying, most people, they might be more hesitant to spend that amount of cash because it's so much, especially.
Oh no,
right?
no! If you read the articles, you see people going in debt just to go to Disney.
Well, I mean, I see that, but really though, going into debt is not really a good thing. But people do it anyway, right?
Yes, but it's the brand power, their moat, the pricing power of Disney that overtakes the thinking about spending your money. You don't want a half-assed experience, so you're like, okay, I don't want to spend it. But then you go to Disney and you want that experience. That overtakes everything. Their moat, the brand power. I hear brand damage, but I don't see it. But yeah, with Disney, it's strong. In Universal, it's strong. For me, I'm only willing to go to Universal because of Mario. And, that power of Nintendo bringing me in is strong. And I'm willing to spend money. That Nintendo fandom is bringing in. I'm not willing to spend money at Six Flags that's down the street.
Yeah,
and Seymour is basically a Vulcan. He has like no emotion. So like the fact that Mario's pulling him in, holy shit!
Yeah.
Well, see, and I think that speaks volumes to what you guys were saying, OG and Seymour, about the brand, right? Is that these other parks don't really have a strong brand to pull people in. They're kind of relying on old, off-the-shelf type of style of attractions. Sure, they're bigger, they're faster, they're taller, whatever. But how many more can you do of that? Really, because like you said, you're now in the Instagram age. You're now in the age of streamers, vlogging the entire time, right? And people want to watch other people have fun at these immersive experiences. You're not going to really have that at like Six Flags or like something like that, right? I mean, that's not really entertaining for people.
Yeah, it's a different world we live in, and these companies like these like Six Flags type of companies are kind of, they're having a rough time kind of adapting. I think,
Yeah. And like I said before, even with the Hard Rock Park that closed down, they were supposed to give you that like Disney-like experience for music lovers, but they didn't. They gave you the Six Flags experience, but with a Band-Aid and say, "Hey, it's about rock music." And they got rebranded to Freestyle Music, and then they closed down. They went out of business because nobody was doing anything there. They weren't going there. They were losing money like crazy, and I have a feeling that's what's going to happen with Six Flags if they don't change up. If they're going to still be this mediocre park where you buy expensive foods, the parking is expensive, everything, they're nickel and diming you just to get their cash flows instead of giving you a better experience. People, they're not willing to pay for that anymore. in the day of social media, everyone can see this, right? You go on Amazon, even you see the reviews for the merchandise that you buy, right? The clothing, the food. You go even for movies, right? Back in the day, back when I was a kid, we couldn't do that. We could have just gone to Cedar Point because it was the closest thing nearby, and that's it. We didn't have the reviews. We had word of mouth, but that's it. But nowadays, it's really hard to, fake that, to say that, oh, we're not pricing you up. We're not paying you for the parking or the fast pass to Six Flags. And it's almost the same price as Disney.
Yeah, it's hard to fake it now with this new age. Like you said, there's Yelp, there's social media. People can take pictures and post it in a second, and everyone can see it. You can't fake it. It's out there in the open. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, you can't just have a concept of a plan,
Yeah, exactly. You can't just have a concept of a plan. Exactly. That's exactly it. Very, very, very topical. I like that, Simon. That was good.
So I want
very mindful, very demure.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me, I got a little fur ball in my throat. Maybe I've been eating cats or something.
I think too much Bush, OG.
Oh my god.
Oh man. But I want to ask you guys though, if Disney and Universal didn't exist, would you guys still be interested in a theme or like amusement parks? I guess because as I've seen from how they operate, a lot of them are like their schedules, the way they do their kind of food operations, ride operations, they all are kind of similar, but yet nobody really complains about it. Really. So would you guys still be fans going to these other parks?
No. Yeah, me neither, Seymour. I'm with you. I said earlier on the show, at the top of the show, I said that I'm a Disney fan and I am a Universal fan. I like what Universal offers because it is very similar to the Disney product, but if Universal and Disney were out of the equation, they just were zapped off the planet. You're not going to find me going to like Six Flags all the time. Like that's not it to me. It's almost a completely different product. Like I said earlier, it's not apples and apples. Like it's completely different. Like just because I like Morton Steakhouse, like I said, and Morton Steakhouse goes out of business, doesn't mean I'm going to automatically kind of gravitate towards, TGI Fridays. You know what I'm saying? They're two totally different things, two totally different animals. So if Disney and Universal went out and they were gone, I would probably just go to Vegas more and places like that, in my opinion. But what say you, Seymour?
I was just about to say the same thing. Yeah, I would just go to Vegas or Japan or somewhere else. I wouldn't go to these mediocre parks, even if though there's not a higher standard if Disney and Universal wasn't there. Even then you could just stay at home. The experience at home now has gotten so much better. You can just play video games. You can play Fortnite. You get your experience there. Disney's working with Epic Games to give you that experience, the bridge the gap, which would kind of kill, these mediocre theme parks where it's like you don't need to go to Six Flags. Just go to Disney World on Fortnite, and then once you save up, go to actual Disney World.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would forego I'd forego Six Flags for sure. But you would probably find me in Chattanooga quite often, probably during the fall and the winter, and I'd probably be staying at the cabins near or around Dollywood, and I'd probably make Dollywood my home park.
Nice.
Because there's a lot of activities up there. I mean, you can do whitewater rafting, you can do zip lining, mountain climbing. Obviously, they have the trails. That would probably be my home away from home, as opposed to Orlando. And I probably spend a lot more time in places like Mexico and Belize. Like you can stay at Xcaret. If you guys have never checked out Xcaret Resort, it's I believe it's right outside of Cancun. It's amazing.
Nice.
It's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd probably be spending some time down there instead.
Now, would you be over there checking out the pygmy hippos or no?
That thing is making a sound, and I'm pretty sure we all know what that sound is like. But I hope that nobody does that sound. All right. So
this little guy has been quite the social media star lately. I don't know if you've been seeing him on social media, but this guy, I think his name is Mudang, I believe. Man, this little hippo. This is his face in every picture, by the way. Like every photo of him. It's like this. But anyway, very, very demure, very, very mindful. Anyways. Well, gentlemen, fantastic conversation. Interesting topic, Webba. Very interesting topic. Yeah, really, really, really fun stuff. And we appreciate you bring that to our attention because I think it made for a really good conversation. So, yeah, big shout out to Mr. Webba for the wonderful topic and the great conversation.
Of course, OG.
Mr. Webba, not only does he save the city, but he's over here making great topics and all kinds of stuff. So pretty awesome. But Mr. Webba, I'll start with you. If you can let everybody home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. Well, OG55, thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, this is a great topic. I mean, there's so much more you could talk about, but this is too much. But it's always fun to discuss theme parks, amusement parks, all the like. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Mr. Webba at Webslinger760, and on OG55.
There he is. Slimer down below. If you can let everybody home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, you guys can find me on X at SlimeSquare84. And I apologize about the angle. I still do not have internet in my new house. I was doing the hotspot was working here for about most of the show, and then it kicked out of me, and I had to go back to the phone. So I apologize about that, listeners. But thanks so much for this combo. I think that I do enjoy thinking about other parks more, and I do kind of feel bad that I forego doing that because some of them bring so much. Just about all of them they have so much entertainment offerings and so many great rides and things like that. So I'm really glad you brought up this topic for us to discuss.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, well said, Slimer. And Mr. Seymour Duck, last but not least, if you can let everybody home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, you can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck. And also, Slimer just reminded me, it's Friday the 13th. Even though if this video is being uploaded, probably not Friday the 13th. But right now, filming this is Friday the 13th.
Yep. Well, for members, it'll be Friday the 13th. For general public, it'll be Saturday the 14th when you watch this.
Any of you guys have a favorite Friday the 13th movie?
Oh man, I haven't seen those movies since I was a kid. What say you, Webba? You have one?
I'll probably be in the very minority, but it was actually the 2009 one, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that Freddy vs. Jason?
No, that was the one.
Oh, that was the remake. That's the remake. Friday the 13th.
Yeah, the remake. I thought the music was great. Jason looks so fucking cool.
Yeah.
The guy who played Jason, I remember I was like still like in high school. I remember back in the day when MySpace was big, and I remember I actually found his account. I sent him a message. I was like, "Hey, dude," I was like, "You did so good in this movie. Is there going to be a sequel?" Blah blah. And he replied to me. He's like, "Hey, Michael, thank you for reaching out. You know, he's like, that would mean so much to me. You know, I haven't heard anything yet, but I'll let you know." But yeah, I thought Jason looked fucking awesome. The music was good, and I wanted to see more of that type of Jason, but we never got it. So.
What say you, Seymour? Are you a big Friday the 13th franchise kind of guy? Or kind of like
I mean, I like the original, but I'm not the biggest Friday. I'm more of a Chucky.
Oh, okay.
Child's Play fan.
There you go. There you go.
I used to have nightmares of him when I was a kid, and I used to write stories about my nightmares and bring it into school. I'm like, this is my journal.
That's awesome. Don't they have a Chucky thing over at Universal right now, Slimer, if I'm not mistaken, at Halloween Horror Nights?
Yeah, it's a show where he basically talks shit to you.
That is amazing. I think that would be a lot of fun. That'd be awesome, actually.
and that's on your coast, by the way. That's on your end, so you're gonna have to check it out. Let us know how it is.
Awesome. Oh, that's on the West Coast?
I believe so, yeah.
I think I have a West Coast drop, if I'm not mistaken.
Now let me welcome everybody to the Wild Wild West.
There we go. Well, thanks everybody for watching this episode of OG55. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we discussed today. Your opinions on local parks, amusement parks, the big two, not the big three, not what Kendrick, fuck the big three, it's big me. No, just the big two, Universal and Disney. What are your thoughts on that? We would love to hear from you. And as always, thank you for watching OG55.